Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Family Engagement, the Foundation for a Strong School Year. My name is Helen Westmoreland, the Director of National PTA's Center for Family Engagement, and I will be your MC today. First, we'd love to get the conversation started, so please use the group chat feature at the bottom of the screen to share your name, location, and what district or organization you represent, if relevant. Now's also a great time to go over just a couple of technical details for today's webinar. Please check the audio settings on your computer as well as your speaker volume settings if you're having any trouble with audio. If you still have any issues, please see our detailed audio troubleshooting file, which is available in the resource list under the Q&A window. And all of today's resources, which will be shared in the chat, are also going to be there in the resource tab for you. And today we are focusing on our great speakers, so you can also minimize the slides in your media player if you'd like. If your console freezes or if you hear music after the presentation has begun, just go ahead and refresh your browser and you should be right back with us. There are also some other icons that open additional feature panels in the webinar console. You can read about today's speakers in the Speaker Bio tab, find the resources, as I mentioned, in the Resource tab, and join the group chat. You can also follow the conversation about today's webinar on X using the hashtag #EdWebinar. We also welcome your questions, so please type them in the Q&A box accessible through the tabs located in your console. Finally, this webinar is recorded and an on-demand archive of the presentation will be available online in the next 24 hours. The archive will be accessible through edweek.org or using the same login you used today. So let's get started. At National PTA, our mission is to engage and empower families and communities to advocate for all children. I bring you greetings on behalf of the millions of parent and community leaders across the country who call themselves members of PTA, as well as from our incredible executive director and wonderful president, Nathan Monell and Yvonne Johnson, respectively. Together, we are all working to ensure that families have a seat at the table in their child's education and in all of our children's education. And we are joined in this purpose by two very special partners with us today. You all are also with us today because you know that families are essential partners in providing a high-quality education for every student. Decades of research also tell us that students whose families are involved are more successful, and that teachers and schools are better off when they invest in engaging their families. We also know from research that a robust family engagement approach is just as predictive of school improvement as a high-quality curriculum or a great school leader. Family engagement is the foundation for a strong school year, and today we're going to chat with experts and practitioners about how our schools can engage all of their families so that our young people can thrive. National PTA comes to this conversation with over 125 years of experience strengthening family-school partnerships. Since the launch of the Center for Family Engagement 7 years ago, National PTA has been raising awareness about family engagement practices that are both equitable and impactful. Transformative family engagement reaches each and every caregiver in ways that respect and empower them to be a partner and an advocate in their children's education. With that in mind, thank you so much to those of you who submitted questions when you registered for the webinar. We also know there is a ton of expertise among you and in the room today. So we'd like to sort of get harvesting that and get the conversation going in the chat. So please do share in the chat what is one thing that you have done to engage families that our schools have historically struggled to reach. By and far, this was one of the most common questions that you all asked in the webinar kind of leading up to today. So we'd like to hear from you in the chat, one thing that you have done or advice that you frequently give to schools and districts about how to engage families that have historically been, quote unquote, hard to reach. So let me give you a minute to do that. Welcome, everyone. Excellent. Great. Thank you for sharing. Multiple forms of communication, personal phone calls. Making families feel welcome. Yes. Family dinners, evening events, right? And childcare and meals, right? If you're asking families to come out, need to make it easy for them, right? Neighborhood walks. Ooh, class learning celebrations. That's a great one. All right, keep those coming because this is an archive that we will copy and be sure to make available to you later as well. And thank you for sharing these great ideas. One of the things that I'm saying, ooh, building trust, yes, that I want to underscore in what you're sharing is that it takes intentionality for family school partnerships to flourish. But what do we really mean by flourish? Is it parents coming to an event that have never come before? Yes, sure, but it's also so much more than that. It is that event has been so well designed and well implemented that parents return home better equipped to monitor and support their child's education in that 70+% of the time that kids are spending outside of our schools. And then because of that, we see positive changes with our kids and students. But this is hard work to design and implement, and our schools need support to do it. However, exemplary programs prove that real outcomes, such as dramatically improved attendance and academic achievement, are possible when schools are intentional about using our limited budgets on strategies to engage families. You're going to hear about some of those stories today from our excellent panel. In addition to today's webinar on how to use family engagement as the foundation for a strong school year, National PTA is pleased to share a new resource with you to find evidence-based family engagement programs. Family Engagement Solutions is a free online tool for administrators, educators, and advocates to find family engagement programs that have demonstrated impacts on students, schools, and families. To learn more about Family Engagement Solutions, that link was in the chat, and you can also go to familyengagement.solutions.org. We hope that you will use this tool to find ideas of more impactful ways you can spend those limited dollars. And these programs have been vetted by parent and community leaders here at National PTA, as well as education researchers from Johns Hopkins University, one of whom you will have the pleasure of hearing from later in today's webinar. Whether you're focusing on reducing chronic absenteeism, improving student mental health, or increasing academic achievement in reading, math, or otherwise, you'll find programs within Family Engagement Solutions that can meet your needs and your specific community demographics. These programs work with schools to help you both reach families you've struggled to reach and also to help you do so in ways that we know can move the needle on our other strategic improvement priorities. And when National PTA first started thinking about this tool and how we can support the field to really take our family engagement efforts to the next level with Family Engagement Solutions, one of the very first partners we reached out to was AASA, the School Superintendents Association. So let's welcome our co-host for today's webinar and bring him on the screen. Dr. David Schuler is the Executive Director of AASA, the School Superintendents Association. Dr. Schuler has empowered educational leaders and inspired young minds to achieve success in and well beyond schoolhouse walls and district lines for more than 2 decades, and is a former superintendent in rural, urban, and suburban settings. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today, and to AASA for being one of National PTA's first partners as we've been thinking about how we can support district and school leaders and educators to become better partners to our families. Before I turn it to you to ask some questions of our panel, I would like to ask you a question first. So please share with us and the audience why AASA believes that family engagement is the foundation for a strong school year, and what you have been doing at AASA to help your members strengthen family school partnerships.
Well, thank you so much, Helen. As Executive Director of AASA, the School Superintendents Association, I'm very proud to represent over 10,000 school district leaders across this great country of ours, serving children and families. AASA and its members are committed to providing high-quality public education to all students, and we know we cannot do that without partnering with our amazing families. At AASA, we know that family engagement is a value, not an activity, not an aside. It is a value. And as a result, we launched our Authentic Family Engagement Certification Program that meets throughout the year, bringing together like-minded folks who really want to engage deeply in this work and share best practices. We also have an annual Authentic Family Engagement Summit that we run, which is a great opportunity for schools and school district teams to come together and really think about intentionally how they can make even deeper levels of connections. And I know in my former districts, it was a high priority all the time for us to make sure that parents and families, all stakeholders, were part of the process of wrapping their arms around our students to provide them the best opportunities for success possible. And this year, I am super proud to partner with National PTA on the Family Engagement Solutions Tool. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for school districts across the country. Together, we convened 5 school districts to support them in addressing a family engagement problem of practice and to get their advice and input on how superintendents and senior staff are approaching family engagement and the role of evidence-based programming in addressing their students' needs. We both learned a lot, and I'm confident that family engagement solutions can be a very important tool in district leaders' toolbox for family engagement. And this audience knows that our schools often don't get the recognition they deserve for their family engagement efforts. So that's why I am super excited to announce today our latest partnership with the National PTA on a brand new Excellence in Family Engagement Award, which will recognize a superintendent who has gone above and beyond to use family engagement as a tool to drive better student outcomes and to inspire others to invest in their families. We're accepting nominations now. The nomination period closes on November 7th. This winner's district will receive $5,000 and be publicly recognized at our upcoming National Conference on Education in New Orleans in March of 2025. Helen, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dave. We could not be more thrilled to be working with you on this. And are so grateful to you for all of your insights on family engagement solutions and your commitment, quite frankly, to champion this issue with an award. We hope our audience will definitely check out all of these great opportunities with AASA. Hopefully today is just a start to whet your appetite and provide you some more resources. As we'd probably agree, Dave, data on impact is important, but so are the stories, right, of how school leaders and practitioners are using family engagement to drive better student outcomes. So with that, let me turn it back to you to kick it off with our great panel.
Well, thanks again, Helen. I am so excited to welcome today's featured panelists. We have just some incredible leaders. Dr. Alex Marrero has served as the superintendent of the Denver Public Schools since spring of 2021. He oversees Colorado's largest school district, which includes nearly 85,000 students and 14,000 staff across 200 schools and has a budget of $1.45 billion. So someone in that role caring this deeply about family engagement is really, really impressive, and we're happy to have you here, Dr. Marrero. Dr. LaTanya Cooper is the proud principal of Sea Castle Elementary School in Miramar, Florida. With everything happening with Hurricane Helene this week, we're just so thankful that you're with us, Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper has over 23 years of experience in education and is one of National PTA's principal fellows for family school partnerships. Carrie Richardson is a 4th and 5th grade teacher in the Denver Public Schools. And everything I heard about her is she is one of those teachers that everybody knows and remembers and thinks the absolute world of. She has helped to implement the evidence-based parent-teacher home visit program in her school to increase student success measures through family engagement. Thanks to all 3 of you for being with us this morning. And Dr. Cooper, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask the same question for all 3 of you to get us started. Let's start by asking each of you to briefly tell us why you think family engagement is the foundation for a strong school year. Dr. Cooper?
Great afternoon, everyone, and thankful Thursday. Thank you so much. I am the proud principal of Sea Castle Elementary School, Dr. LaTanya L. Cooper. And first and foremost, I want to thank my phenomenal staff, also my sensational PTA. I, as a principal, feel like family engagement is very powerful. It's impactful. It's the foundation for a strong school year because it can lead to an extreme amount of positive outcomes for scholars, their parents, our guardians, and anyone involved in our schools. Some areas that stand out to me as a principal regarding family engagement is academic achievement. It is at an all time high, and scholars perform better when families are involved. Behavior is better. I don't know about you, but when my family and my parents came on campus, I knew to do my very best because I knew they were watching me. Also, relationships between teachers, myself as a principal, family members, and parents are amazing when families are involved on campus. Also, social skills are enhanced when it's regarding to family engagement. Thank you so much, Dr. Schuler, for asking me that question.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful response, Dr. Cooper. Carrie, how about from a classroom and school perspective, from your perspective?
Thanks so much for having me. And, to answer your question, I think we want to build the bridge before we need the bridge, right? We know that there's going to be a gap between school and home. That is reality. And so let's build the bridge and be ready to build that trust that we can tap into later in the school year. And, as a parent myself and having taught in public schools, Denver public schools since 2007, I can say, like, undoubtedly, parents, families, caregivers, they're the experts on their children. So what could be more foundational than like tapping into that expertise right at the beginning of the school year to have a strong start, not only with the families, but also with the student themselves.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. Dr. Marrero, how about from your perspective?
Sure. Dr. Schuler, thank you for the question, the invitation. We're over here pumping our fists because you have the superintendent and a teacher from the same system. Shows how important this work is in Denver Public Schools. So that's the excitement, and thank you for highlighting us. I think the question in itself really provides the answer. It is 100% the foundation. It is incredibly important, in particular when you start the year. We have to have that strong partnership amongst our families for our schools to thrive. Our families know our students best. Some would argue differently. So engaging them is crucial in supporting the growth of a scholar. Not to be redundant in what we've heard from the other panelists, here's what we do from the macro level, if you will, right? So in order to set the tone for the school year, and in this very large district, we have district-wide approaches, initiatives, and resources. Of course, some are common, back to school drives. We have a family and community engagement center, but also the helpline to really navigate any questions and challenges. But these next initiatives are pretty unique, and I welcome all to explore or ask questions on what they look like. Community hub supports, it's true wraparound and multi-generational supports across our city, not just for parents. You name it, from taxes to FAFSA is what I say. We have over 8,000 volunteers that we encourage, and some of them become DPS employees. And we also celebrate excellence. Just recently, Black excellence, so from our students and from our families being put on stage and celebrate their history here in the city of Denver. We also have well over 9,000 parent home visits, and that is remarkable. I believe that leads the nation. So much more that I can mention. Just, if I can simply put it, Doc, is family engagement affirms our sense of belonging. The students feel more welcomed, and that sense of security that we need to really launch the year is absolutely necessary, very similar to what we see in the classroom, but we have to model it from the district.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Dr. Marrero, and I'm so thankful that we have a classroom teacher, a principal, and a superintendent, because I do think it takes all levels working together to engage in this work with our families and with our parents. Dr. Marrero, as a follow-up, we've heard from some superintendents that they don't put more resources towards engaging families because of competing priorities or because of some of the challenges in getting active and engaged parent and family support. Why did you decide to make the investment in your families for your district?
Wow, so I'm a little taken back that some may not see the realities and I guess the beauty and the opportunity that lies with engaging communities. I have not seen that in my travels, so it's hard for me to I guess, accept that some superintendents feel that way. My experience, it's rare to find a family member who doesn't care about their students' success. Sometimes they're definitely competing priorities. Heck, I was one of those students who had family members who had to engage in, quite frankly, survival. Often those sentiments are due to, aside from the commitments, perhaps it's them not feeling welcome and involved in their school or the greater district. So I ask respectfully for my colleagues to just, do some self-reflection to see how we could be contributing to that. So it's important to note that the true direction and the showcasing of community celebration comes with the embracing of our community members. In Denver Public Schools, we elevate our advisory councils. So you name it, whether it's an affinity group, whether it's a coalition, I have so many advisory councils and I engage with each one of them. It became so plentiful that I created a superintendent advisory council. I call it the Super ACT, and where we have a member at the very least, or some members from each one of these advisory councils. And of course, our students are included. I've also elevated the FACE department with our student voice and leadership and created that to be front and center in my cabinet so I can have the students and families in every decision that I have to make. Whether it was during crisis, and we've had our share of tests here throughout the years, or when we have to engage in something that is not as exciting like school consolidation, which we're currently doing. If you have our students and our families who are the closest, I guess, bottom line to us, students being at the core always, then you really cannot make a mistake in terms of your decision making. So when I keep them in the forefront, not only am I a better superintendent, I'm honoring the notion of being a public servant, but it also, aside from alienating them, you're truly just shifting from even engagement to involvement, ultimately to empowerment.
Dr. Marrero, you mentioned FACE. I assume that stands for something along the lines of family and community engagement?
Precisely, yes.
Excellent. You and I both know we speak in acronyms sometimes so much, but we just got to make sure. I wanted to make sure and clarify because I think that's a really cool department to have. So I wanted to just shine a spotlight on that. Just a quick follow-up, you're a very busy person. Leading a district with that many students, 14,000 staff, over $1 billion budget, and yet you're prioritizing family engagement. Can you maybe just spend a minute or so talking about why that's so important to you at your core?
Sure. Not only is it's a reflection of what could have happened, let's say, if I felt included in decision making when I was a youngster, but also if my family's was tapped in terms of what our needs were, I guess my neighborhood. So it's part in terms of my lived experience and what could have been. But going back, and thank you for allowing me to elaborate, here's the cheat code, if you will, for leadership, especially public servitude. No different in whatever role. Of course, at our core are our students. But our families make the decision whether they're going to send our students to our schools, right? So if you neglect that, then now you won't have students to serve, right? So truly being a public servant is being able to engage, but also be responsive to the needs, wants, and desires of the families that you've set out to lead. So to be quite honest, that is as simple of a mentality as you need to be a public servant. And if you can honor the students, of course, and the families that represent those students and trust you with guiding them towards success, then you really can't mess up. So that's the philosophy.
Thank you so much. That was so authentic and I think really, really important for people to hear. So I appreciate that. Dr. Cooper, thank you for taking the time to be with us. I want to turn it over to you to give us your thoughts as a principal. What do you see as the purpose of family engagement? And what are some of the family engagement strategies you've used at CCASL in your community in Broward County to start the school year off strong?
Thank you so much, Dr. Schuler. You are so welcome. And thank you for that question. Some of the things that we incorporate at the sensational CCASL Elementary School, I can't just say me as Dr. Cooper, the principal, but also my phenomenal assistant principal, Dr. And I'm giving her the doctor mode. She always says, no, it's Miss Dina Kakarian. We really love friendly customer service at Sensational CCASL. And when I say customer service, myself as the principal, I love to greet our families in the forefront on our campus, my office staff, greet our families with a smile. Ms. Gina Kakarian and our support staff greet our families in the parking lot onto our campus. So everyone, all of our families, community members, scholars, they are invited on our campus, promoting inclusivity. What I mean by that is we provide resources for everyone at the same pace, same rate, offering flexibility. Some of our families cannot join us on campus at certain times, so we provide them with different time frames to come on our campus. For example, and I have to shout out my PTA. Hi, PTA. I know you're here with us today under the great leadership of Antoinette Bailey and her team. We like to meet with them over the summer before school starts to provide them the opportunity to provide us with different resources for our families. I want to point out our meet and greet. So over the summer, we provided our families with a parent link, an email, a dojo to say, hey guys, welcome back to our campus. Early, we had it August 9th, where that the PTA reached out to about 10 to 15 vendors, including our aftercare programs to provide our families the resources to house our scholars on campus after school hours until about 6 o'clock. Ms. Bailey and her team reached out to the local bank. The bank joined us for meet and greet, reached out to transportation companies to join us on our campus. We reached out to Broward Teachers Union. Thank you so much, Anna Fusco. Also, we reached out to the Broward Education Foundation to join us on our campus during our meet and greet. Myself, Dr. Cooper, and Ms. Gina Kakarian, we usually stand up on the stage with two different groups. We invited out our 3rd through 5th grade scholars and their families out first because we have a large amount of scholars on our campus. We're up to 914 scholars at our elementary school. So what we do at that time is we provide our families with information on things we can do on our campus, things we cannot do on our campus. We also provide them how to enter our campus and how to exit our campus. We also provide them the opportunity to meet all the key players on our campus. Our fabulous PTA, of course, our teachers who are remarkable, our facilities. We also provide them an opportunity to meet our cafeteria manager and her staff. We also show them the different things we have on our campus, such as gyms and gents, Girl Scouts, enrichment masters. During that time, the families have the opportunity to stop listening to us for a moment and go to the back of our cafeteria and see all of the wonderful resources we have in store for them. After that time, Broward Teachers Union and Broward Educational Foundation provided our scholars with backpacks, free, filled with a plethora of materials. After that, they transition out onto our campus. My phenomenal support staff, they serve as docents, and they provide our families the opportunities to go to different classrooms to meet the different teachers. We have about 3 or 4 rotations, so everyone will have the opportunity to meet all of their scholars' teachers. After that, we have a 10-minute break in between, and then we invite our K through 2nd grade families on our campus alongside our autism cluster parents on our campus, and we do it all over again. We give them our speech. We give them the opportunity to meet with us, myself, Dr. Cooper, and also Ms. Gina Kakarian. Moving forward, we, August 12th, school started here in Broward County Schools. At that time, we allow our parents to walk each and every one of their children on our campus to their classrooms so they can feel comfortable, they can feel welcomed. And we do that for about 3 days. And the 4th day, we ask our families to kiss their babies goodbye, and we take over from there. Thank you, Dr. Schuler, for that question and allowing me to provide you information about the sensational Sea Castle Elementary School.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. I am just fascinated that there's this through line already developing, and we've been talking 15 minutes between the conversation and the response that Dr. Marrero gave and the conversation that you just shared with us. Yes, it's about getting parents to partner, but there's also this aspect of getting parents to believe that their kids can be successful in your schools. And to Dr. Marrero's point, people sending their children to our schools, and so having that activity fair, having them walk the building, having them see smiles on adults' faces, right? What does that do in the minds of those parents? It makes them feel better about their student being successful in your environment. And that's what part of this partnership has to be about. Yes, it's all about the kid and it's all about the students being successful in student outcomes. But to do that, it can be really helpful to have parents that believe that you're a partner with them, right? We as schools ask parents to partner with us, but parents also want us to partner with them. And I think what you've talked about, what Dr. Marrero talked about, is just spot on for that return on investment and two-way partnership that we have to do. Any thoughts or comments on that? Dr. Cooper?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Schuler. I want my families to feel welcomed and invited. I don't want my parents to feel like they can't come on our campus. We have open arms. We invite them not only on our campus, but we also go out into the community as a school. Again, I cannot say it enough. My PTA is always boots on the ground, hitting the ground running, and they always invite us as a school out into our community. And I can tell you this, my school shows up in groves. We all show up in groves, and we all want our families to know that they are part of Sea Castle's school family. They are Dolphins just like us, and they are part of us. And we never turn anyone away. Anything that they need, anything that they want, we have it readily available for them. Any ideas our families have for us, we meet as a group, as a unit, as a family unit, as a PTA group or unit, and they provide us with their ideas and we adopt them and we bring them into schools. If that's going to make them comfortable and that's going to make our families come into our schools, we adopt their ideas. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's just terrific. I'm so fired up about the conversation so far. And now we're bringing a classroom teacher into the fold. Carrie, give us your perspective as a teacher. We know you and your colleagues are stretched so thin. We're asking more of you than we've ever asked before as a society. And the added capacity to implement a new program or practice can be a challenge. How do you make time to engage families? And how do family engagement programs like your parent-teacher home visits help you make the most of the little time you have available?
Thanks, Dr. Schuler. You're absolutely right. Teaching is incredibly complex. It's really, really hard. It's literally impossible to do it well in 40 hours a week. So I think to answer the question is like, where am I going to prioritize my time? And there's a priority that I place on parent and family partnerships for a number of reasons. One is thinking about maximizing the time that I have in a day. So if I make a positive phone call to a family, that takes, let's say 10, 15 minutes. And that might save me literally hours of trying to chase a kid who's eloping and running down the hallway, or an entire school year of questioning, like, what is going on with this kid? What are the root causes of these behaviors? So a 10-minute phone call, a 30 or 40-minute home visit can really save time in the long run. I swear by it. And thinking on like a real human level, not just as a teacher, am I going to be happy to spend my time crying about work, shopping for wine, talking to my therapist about how hard work is? Or can we lean into the research that shows that strong family partnerships actually improves teacher morale? It improves teacher performance. It makes your job easier. It makes it more fun. It makes it better all around. So it's really, like I think you mentioned, Dr. Schuler, it's an investment and it gives returns constantly. I wanted to talk a lot about the parent-teacher home visit program that you pointed out, and there were some questions in the chat as well. And this also addresses, I think, what Dr. Cooper was saying about going out into the community, and some of the questions that we've seen in the chat about families who are very, very busy, or families who have, I think somebody's called it limited social capital. A home visit is an opportunity for us to meet the parents and the families where they are. As we've all talked about and mentioned, schools can be very closed. There's security questions. So I can bypass all of those feelings and go to the family's home, or it can be a neutral location as well if they prefer. And I can be seen in the community. Usually if I go on a home visit, I'm also going to see all the other kids who live in that same apartment complex running around, riding their bikes. And so I'm seen in the community. Even if I'm doing a 30-minute home visit, I might actually be making contact with several families at that time. One question about the scheduling, and kind of to your question too, Dr. Schuler, about the timing. I do not try to schedule all of my home visits before school starts. I think that might be really, really hard. So I try to do some before school starts, certainly. But I think that the key to scheduling parent-teacher home visits is to offer families a broad variety of how to do that. You can kind of get some families to sign up with something like a Sign Up Genius. I might send texts and just ask them, hey, are you interested in a visit? And we might text about that. When I do make phone calls home, I say, hey, there's this program. Would you be interested? And times like back to school night, I might have a sign-up sheet. Family conferences, might also mention it there, get them on the schedule. So really trying to schedule as many as I can in the first trimester, because I'm working to build that relationship and that foundation, as we were saying. And I could, obviously I'm really passionate about home visits. So I'm trying to really address the questions and not go too much on a tangent, but I can tell you so many true stories about how family home visits and really parent engagement and parent partnerships has improved me as a teacher, and my colleagues too, but personally, reducing implicit bias. Visiting a family, it's just automatic. If you're going with an open heart and open mind and authenticity, you are learning immeasurable amounts about families, about cultures, about what makes people tick. And it reduces punitive disciplinary practices. And I can tell a real quick story about that. If you've heard me talk about this before, you probably have heard this very same story because it is so perfect. I went to visit a family, and the student was born and raised in a refugee camp in Rwanda. And shortly after visiting the family, I got a call from the school secretary that said, hey, so this student, we'll call him Justin, student Justin was just spitting on the floor in front of the office. You got to talk to him. And so I actually, through an interpreter, because I don't speak Kinyarwanda, through an interpreter called and said, so, yo, dude, the floors here are not made out of dirt. So when you spit on the floor, it has to be cleaned up. It doesn't just get absorbed. And so instead of coming down like a hammer on this kid for spitting on the floor, instead of assuming that he's incredibly disrespectful, instead of, having him lose his recess, it was actually just a quick conversation about, hey, actually, this isn't how it works in schools here. I'm just going to try to catch up really quick on some of the questions. The school that I'm with is Placebridge Academy in Denver Public Schools. I'm incredibly proud to work here. And as I just mentioned, my student being born and raised, I know in a refugee camp, I'm actually a newcomer teacher. All of my students are in their first year in the United States. And so I think that experience translates not just to immigrant and newcomer families, but I think to smaller school districts, more rural spaces, more urban school districts where there are families who are working 3 jobs to try to, survive. I think, as Dr. Marrero had talked about, there's a survival aspect.
Yeah, thanks so much, Carrie. I mean,
I don't want to ramble. So, Dr. Schuler, tell me what's up.
No, I think it's all good. And I think, the one thing that people don't think about if you haven't done home visits is how much better and more empathetic and humbling it is for you as a teacher, because we're our own lived experiences. And many of us who got into education were pretty good students. And we just assume everybody should think the way that we think. And so to go out and meet people where they're at can just be such a wonderful opportunity to make you better at connecting with our kids. I think that's such a powerful reminder. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's something that may be underestimated sometimes when people think like they're checking a box, and it's not checking a box. It's about really, and as you said, going in with that open heart and that open mind. And I thought that was a beautiful way that you phrased that. Dr. Cooper, let's go back to you for a second, because there were a couple questions that came in related to safety, security, crowds when you have people coming into your buildings. Can you talk a little bit about that at in your school?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for asking that question. We do have campus monitors on our campus. We also have a school resource police officer on our campus that assists myself and my assistant principal with crowd control. Also, our parents have to sign in at the front door, either near the cafeteria when they come into group events or into the front office.
Great. Dr. Marrero, one of the questions was raised about how do you engage middle school families? Like sometimes it's easier at that elementary level to get parents engaged, but a little more challenging at the secondary level. And the question was specifically about middle schools. So I'm wondering about your advisory councils or how you engage students and families at that middle level.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And yes, I want to acknowledge that there's a clear correlation, and it's a negative one, that we have involvement at its peak when the students are in their youngest grades, and then it just starts to fizzle away as the students get older. I would say you don't change your approach, right? So there's also another question that I'm going to try to answer both, Dr. Schuler, if I can. It's by elevating the voice and again, the needs, wants, and desires of those that we serve. So we have so many advisory councils from special ed, multilingual language. We have also, by distinction of grade levels, we have our district accountability, Black family, you name it, it exists, right? So not only is it a two-way engagement, meaning I go to them wherever they are, but they come here, right? But we also elevate a member at the very least of each one of those, and they are part of my advisory council that helps me make decisions. That's why I said shifting from just engagement to involvement, and you can call that involvement being that two-way connection. But the empowerment piece is that I'm prepared to relinquish my authority when it comes to some decisions if it's in the best interest of the entire community, or in certain cases, the majority, because as you can imagine, there is conflicting I guess, priorities, right? So same approach, just a little bit more intentional, right? And then the students are the key when it comes to our older scholars, right? So my superintendent advisory council, represented by my student council, they call themselves the cabinet. Those are secondary students. And I start with our middle school. They grow, eventually becoming high school scholars. And that's how I maintain the connection to our older scholars and also their families.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Marrero. I hope the rest of you are as fired up as I am after listening to those three absolutely incredible individuals. As we look to wrap up this part of our conversation, I would like to ask each of you briefly just one more question. And that would be, what is one piece of advice you have for our audience about what they can do to use family engagement as the foundation for a strong school year? And Carrie, let's start with you.
Well, if you're not ready for a parent-teacher home visit, which would be my top advice, My second piece would be to make a positive phone call home, positive text home. We use an app that allows us to send texts and photos to families. It translates into their languages. It's absolutely beautiful. Send a photo of the kiddos on their first day or their first week of school. Show them that their kids are loved and cared for and safe at the school, and that you are there to partner with them.
I cannot reinforce that enough. I mean, I remember when I was a dean and I called home one time to a student's dad, and it was a high school kid, and I said, I just want to tell you, Steve had just an awesome week this week. He turned in all of his assignments and did not come to get called to the office one time. And he was one of our frequent flyers, and his dad started to cry. And he said, you know what? No one from a school has ever said anything positive about my son before. How sad is that? So Carrie, what you just talked about, so important. You want to build family engagement. What parent is trying to do an awful job with their kids? Right? Everybody just develops and is successful at a different time in a different place, And so you want to break family engagement bonds, continue to call and only tell them negative things about their kids. And then you wonder why they don't show up for the next set of parent teacher conferences. Right? So Carrie, thank you so much for that piece of advice. Dr. Cooper, how about from your perspective?
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Cooper, what's your piece of advice?
First of all, I want to say thank you, Ms. Carrie, for being a spectacular teacher. And my advice is for my fellow colleagues, you have to love who you lead, and you have to invite or create a PTA on your campus because it's vital. They are parents, they work extremely hard, and they're busy, but you have to invite them on your campus to be part of your school family because those PTA parents invite other parents on your campus. Also, I would like to say, parents, get involved in your child's school. Get that one person on campus that you have that great relationship with and stay in that person's ear to let them know how you all are feeling as parents. Also, I would like to say to teachers who are involved, continue to get involved with parents, continue to invite scholars to different events on our campus. And also, I would like to say that we need to continue to believe in our scholars. We need to empower our families, and we also need to allow them to assist us with achieving our goals.
Dr. Cooper, I think that is just so wonderful as well. And I think, the point that you just brought up is super important because if you really want engagement and involvement, to Dr. Morero's perspective, it's not asking the PTA to do supplemental things. It's actually involving them and partnering with them to improve the school community. And those can be viewed very, very differently. And I think that's why when we talk about engagement and involvement, those are why we use those terms. It's not just, showing up and hosting something so I don't have to do it as a principal. That's not how you're viewing that partnership. It is a true partnership to make your school community better, which will therefore help your students perform better. So I thank you very much for that. I think that was so powerful. Dr. Morero, what's your piece of advice? You've given us tons throughout the last 40 minutes or so, but give us one last piece of advice.
Sure. When you just assess on our why, our core is clear. We're here for students. I asked you all to say, okay, what's the closest thing to students? Of course, it's their loved ones, our families as a whole. So keep them at the core. I would include them at the core. Or, as I mentioned, they can choose in the land of choice, like we have here in Colorado, to send their children, our students, our scholars elsewhere. And if you don't engage your families, you will lose trust. And even those who do not have the means to make a choice, right? Not engaging them perpetuates the historical reality of certain communities, what I experienced when I was a youngster. So it's your responsibility. Not only is it your responsibility, I believe it's your duty to uplift these families, in particular historically marginalized, uplift their voices so you can make thoughtful decisions for the community that you serve.
And embrace the work, right? Embrace that work, because all it can do is be beneficial for our kids. So thank you very much, Dr. Morero. Man, I wish you could all go on screen and just clap like crazy, because I know you guys all enjoyed this past 40 minutes as much as I did. Helen, I'm turning it back over to you, but thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Thank you, Dr. Morero. You guys are rock stars. And Helen, did I tell you they were going to knock it out of the park or what?
You did. We knew it. Thank you, Dave, for just moderating an excellent conversation, and to each and every one of these incredible panelists for sharing their expertise with all of us today. I wish we had many more hours for this conversation. So Edweek, maybe we'll have to think about another follow-up webinar to do together. As I reflect on this panel, one of the things that really strikes me that we've heard from the story of a superintendent, a principal, and a teacher is that all of you've really made a commitment to being excellent at family engagement. And 2 years ago, National PTA, as part of our update to the national standards for family school partnerships, commissioned a nationally representative survey of public school parents. And one of the key findings from that was, yes, many families feel like their school is welcoming, they're generally happy with their school, but only 1 out of 3 families said their school was doing excellent at any one thing on family engagement. So I certainly am going to leave today feeling a little inspired by all the excellence in family engagement, and hope you all do too, and apply for that Excellence in Family Engagement Award. I heard all the links are fixed, so please check that out. I also heard from our panelists that they're really taking their family engagement efforts from Bloom to Maslow, right? So making sure that how we engage families is really driving better outcomes for our students. And I mentioned earlier in the webinar that we've recently launched family engagement solutions to help administrators, educators, and advocates find evidence-based family engagement programs that then help them build a great foundation for a strong school year. And right now you can explore the models, training costs, and more for 7 programs. Parent-teacher home visits, which you heard mentioned, is one of those in this online tool. And I'd like to invite up one of the people who's been very involved in this project and reviewing this, these bodies of work with us, Dr. Amanda Neitzel, the incredible education researcher at Johns Hopkins University Center for Research and Reform in Education, where she is the deputy director, to provide a few closing thoughts with us. Amanda, thank you and the Evidence for AASA team for being wonderful partners in this project with National PTA. You just heard from our panelists about how to start the school year strong with family engagement. And I'd like to take a little bit of a step back and sort of connect these two bodies of work we're talking about. Could you share just a little bit with our audience more about why they should think about evidence-based programming, whether it's family engagement or anything else, as they're thinking about their strategy for a strong school year this year?
Thank you, Helen. So good afternoon, everyone. This has been such a fantastic panel. So as Helen said, I'm Amanda Neitzel, and I'm a researcher at the Center for Research and Reform in Education at Johns Hopkins. So my work really falls in 2 main threads. So I evaluate programs to identify what works best student outcomes. And I also, and this is what most of my time is, search for research studies that prove which programs work. So one key project that I'm involved with, I mentioned, is Evidence for AASA, which is a clearinghouse of educational programs proven to work in reading, math, social emotional learning, attendance, and now family engagement. Our goal is to help schools make decisions based on solid evidence. So in education, evidence-proven decision-making is essential for improving student outcomes. By relying on data and research, we ensure that the strategies we choose aren't just well-intentionally proven to work. So say I'm thinking about getting back into running and plan to do a marathon next fall. This is true. So should I choose a training program that's been documented to help runners achieve their marathon goals? Or should I follow something that sounds good, but doesn't really have the background or the data to back it up? So following that plan with a proven track record is certainly the best choice. The same logic holds in education. But here, the outcomes for students' futures are so important that it's imperative that we reduce that risk. How do we do that? We choose approaches proven through high-quality research studies to be effective in improving student achievement. So what does that mean? When we talk about using evidence in education, we often hear terms proven programs and evidence-based practices. Proven programs provide clear steps, guidance and ways to measure if we're implementing them effectively. In contrast, practices are more like a general guide. It's hard to ensure that we're using practices in the most impactful way. And I see some of those questions coming up in the chat about, well, how would we get the scheduling done? How does this fit in our schools? If you choose a program, it's structured in such a way that you know the answers to those questions for you. So this is why programs which are formalized with that guidance for implementation and assessment are most likely to lead to success than standalone practice. They offer the structure we need to ensure they're applied consistently and effectively, and then we are able to evaluate them. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not just making decisions, we're shaping the future of our students. With the right evidence-proven programs in place, we can ensure every student has the opportunity to succeed, and the way that we get there involves all of the community and families.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. I am just leaving feeling kind of buzzing with ideas and energy. This is, as you mentioned, such hard work. And it cannot be understated what it really takes to invest, whether it's monetarily, right, or the time or the energy. So we hope all of you will leave here today knowing National PTA, AASA, Evidence for ESSA, and all of our wonderful panelists are here in this fight, arm in arm with you. We deeply believe in the power of family-school partnerships. We deeply believe that this work can accomplish tremendous things for our kids. So I'll pull everyone else up as they're getting their videos on just for a few final thank yous as we close out. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, the panel. Thank you, ASA, for co-hosting this with us. I want to remind everyone that you can learn more about evidence-based family engagement at familyengagementsolutions.org. I'd also like to thank those whose funding really made this webinar and Family Engagement Solutions possible at the Carnegie Corporation of New York and the Overdeck Family Foundation. And thank you to all of you who attended today. Please don't forget to check out that resource tab where we've got lots of good resources for you that we hope you can put to practice right away. And if you enjoyed this webinar and want to learn more about resources from National PTA's Center for Family Engagement, my colleague Heidi is going to put in the chat a sign up for our newsletter so you can sort of stay in the loop on all the work that's going on. And before I close out, I just want to remind everyone that this session was recorded. So if you'd like to watch today's presentation again, the on-demand archive will be made available through edweek.org or using today's link within the next 24 hours. You can also visit edweek.org to find articles to explore topics related to today. So thank you once again to everyone who joined. We are so appreciative of all of you, and we hope to see you again next time. Thanks, everyone.